Animals around me are acting strangely. It started small, the kind of thing you'd brush off if you weren't paying attention, a dog barking in the middle of the night. Its howls more frantic than usual, birds perching on the power lines outside my house, staring at my windows in perfect silence. A squirrel frozen in the middle of my driveway, unmoving, unblinking, as I pulled in from work. I should have known something was wrong. The first time I truly noticed was with my neighbor's cat Oliver. He was one of those big lazy orange tabbies that spent most of his time lounging on their porch. I'd pet him a few times on my way to check the mail, and he was always friendly, but one afternoon, he was just sitting there staring at my door. He didn't move, didn't blink, just sat perfectly still, watching. I tried calling to him. "Hey Oliver, what's up, buddy?" Nothing, not even a flick of his ear. Uneasy, I went inside, shaking off the weirdness. Animals do weird things sometimes, right? But the next morning, Oliver was still there, same spot, same position, as if he hadn't moved all night. That's when I noticed the birds. They were sitting along the fence that separated my yard from the next, lined up neatly like sentinels. Their eyes tracked my every move, heads turning in eerie unison as I stepped onto my porch. I told myself it was just a coincidence, that I was overthinking it. But deep down, something felt. A week later, things escalated. I woke up to the sound of scratching. At first, I thought it was just tree branches against the window, but when I got up to check, my blood ran cold. Dozens of raccoons were sitting in my yard, just sitting there staring up at my bedroom window. Their beady little eyes reflected the glow of the streetlights, their bodies motionless. They didn't forage, didn't move, just watched. I closed the curtains, my heart pounding. Then came the crows. The next day, the trees in my yard were filled with them, perched on every branch, their black forms stark against the sky. They didn't caw, didn't shuffle their wings, just sat there in eerie silence. I tried to ignore them, I tried to go about my day as usual, but the feeling of being watched never left me. And then the deer came. I was driving home late one evening when I saw them, a group of deer, standing in the road, their bodies illuminated by my headlights. At first I thought they were frozen in fear, but as I slowed the car, I realized they weren't scared. They were waiting. They stood in perfect formation, shoulder to shoulder, their heads all tilted at the same unnatural angle. Their eyes, glassy and dark, reflected the light, giving them an eerie, lifeless appearance. I honked my horn. Nothing. I inched the car forward, still they didn't move. And then, in perfect unison, they turned and walked off the road, disappearing into the woods. I drove home shaking. Something was wrong, terribly, terribly wrong. The next morning, I woke up to find my yard covered in dead mice. Hundreds of them, their tiny bodies scattered across the grass like leaves after a storm. Their eyes were still open, their mouths frozen mid-squeak. I nearly threw up. I called animal control, but by the time they arrived, the bodies were gone. Not a single trace remained, no blood, no fur, just empty, undisturbed grass where they had been. The officer gave me a funny look when I tried to explain. "Maybe you imagined it," he said. I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. That night I heard whispering outside my window. It wasn't human. I know how that sounds, I know it, but the noises I heard weren't words, they were chirps, growls, hisses. Animal sounds, distorted and wrong, strung together like language. I stayed awake all night, heart pounding, waiting for something to happen, but nothing came. The next morning, my front door was opened. I never leave it unlocked. By this point, I was too scared to stay home. I packed a bag, ready to leave town for a few days, get some space, clear my head. But as I loaded my suitcase into my car, I saw them. Hundreds of animals, dogs, cats, birds, raccoons, deer, everything, standing at the edge of my property just beyond the fence line, watching me. And then, as one, they smiled. I don't mean they bared their teeth. I don't mean their lips curled in aggression. I mean they smiled wide, unnatural grins that stretched too far, their eyes gleaming with something that was not animal. I dropped my bag and ran inside, slamming the door shut, locking every bolt. My breath came in short gasps as I tried to rationalize what I had just seen. Then, my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. We see you. I haven't left my house since. Every time I peek outside, they're still there, just standing, just waiting. I know what they want. I don't know why they've chosen me. But I know one thing for certain. Animals shouldn't smile.